Studies suggest over 90% of guys bail on their fitness goals before summer even hits. And it's actually not their fault. It's because they're trying to follow plans made by full-time influencers whose main concern is how many views their Instagram story got. Not real guys with careers, deadlines, and actual lives. Men used to go to war, now they post selfies with a filter. Anyway, if you're tired of looking in the mirror and not seeing the body you know you should have by now, especially with summer just around the corner, this video is going to be a game changer for you. I'm going to walk you through the exact step-by-step process to get in shape before summer hits. And the best bit, there's still plenty of time if you follow what I'm about to share. But why should you even listen to me? Well, I've been a professional bodybuilder for over 6 years, competing on some of the world's biggest stages. And at this point, I've coached over 1,000 people, helping them transform their bodies, even with demanding careers and busy schedules. And I was able to help them because I did it myself first. I got in professional level shape whilst working my own busy 9 till 6 in London, before making helping people my full-time career. These aren't genetic freaks or 20-year-olds who only have the latest TikTok trends to worry about either. They're busy professionals who simply followed the exact process I'm about to share with you and achieved results like this in just a few months.
When you start seeing results, you wish you'd started sooner.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you that you did decide to pull the trigger and take action on coaching?
Yeah, absolutely chuffed. Yeah. 12 out of 10.
What's even better is that they did this without having to give up their social lives or become fitness robots. They still enjoyed meals out, time with family. They didn't have to spend 2 hours in the gym every single day. So here's exactly what we're going to cover today. First of all, we'll set up your personal pre-summer timeline and realistic goals based on where you're starting from. You're probably not going to look like Chris Bumstead in 3 months, but you definitely can feel way more confident taking your top off, feel better in your clothes, and actually be proud of what you did. Next, I'll show you exactly how to structure your nutrition without tracking every single calorie, or with tracking every single calorie if that's your thing. And then we'll cover the most efficient training approach for rapid results, making sure you don't lose any of that hard-earned muscle or waste any time. And finally, I'll share the 3 secret accelerators that my most successful clients use to maximize their results. And by the end of this video, you'll have a complete plan that you can start implementing today. Not a vague idea, but a specific strategy tailored to your situation that will get you looking your best by the time summer arrives. So let's get stuck in, shall we? All right, let's be honest with each other. You don't accidentally get in shape before summer. You don't just wake up one day in July with abs because you sort of tried to lose fat in March. If we want this, and I mean if we really want to feel confident with the shirt off on the beach, or just not puffing walking upstairs, we need a plan, a roadmap. So step 1, figure out how many weeks you've got. Open the calendar and count how many weeks until that event, your holiday, festival, wedding, or just general shirt off weather. Be brutal. That number is your runway. Not someday, not soon, actual weeks. So let's say you got 10 to 12 weeks. That's more than enough time to make a serious transformation if you do it properly. So what does properly look like? We're going to aim to lose around 0.8 to 1% of your body weight per week. That's the sweet spot. Fast enough to see visible change, but slow enough to hold onto muscle and not feel like death. And that's backed by research, not just gym lore, as you can see from this very sexy looking graph. I'll try to spare you too many of those though. So here's an example. You're 90 kilos or 200 pounds, 1% per week over 12 weeks. That's nearly 11 kilos of fat gone. That is massive. And that is not just sort of trying fat loss. That's showing up consistently across your training, your nutrition, your steps, your sleep, the works. Now, here's the part most people screw up. They don't set a finish line. They say, I just want to lose some fat. All right, cool. How much? By when? Without a timeline, you'll drift. With a deadline, you've got urgency, focus, and accountability. And once you've got your goal, you can reverse engineer the weekly targets. Hit those targets, adjust when needed, and you're in full control of the process. And if you're thinking, but what if I've got a lot to lose? The same thing. We just break it into phases. Maybe it's 10 kilos now, then a short break, then another phase after. It's not all or nothing, it's planned. So here's your job tonight. Work out how many weeks you've got, set a clear fat loss goal in kilos or pounds, and then break that down to a weekly target. Because let me tell you this, if you take this seriously for 10 to 12 weeks, you could be unrecognizable by the time summer hits. And that version of you, they'll be glad you started today. Okay, so now you've basically pulled up Google Maps and you punched in where it is you want to go. You can see the route, but you can't drive. Let me show you how to get in gear. All right, so we've got the goal set. You know how much fat you want to drop and by when. Now let's talk about the part that actually moves the needle, your nutrition strategy. Because listen, if your food's not dialed in, it really doesn't matter how hard you're training. You cannot out-train a diet that looks as bad as my investments after Donald Trump put tariffs on everyone. Now, I've mentioned I'd show you how to do this both with and without tracking. My advice here, especially if you don't have tons of experience, is to track your nutrition or have a meal plan that you can follow to a T every day that just doesn't require tracking because it stays the same. At least not after the first time you've tracked it, so you know how much you're actually eating. But if you want to know how I'd approach getting lean for summer without tracking, I'll cover it at the end of this segment. With that said, step 1, figure out your maintenance calories. Easiest way to do this, take your body weight in pounds and just multiply it by 15. That gives you a very rough estimate of your daily maintenance calories. So if you're 200 pounds, which is just over 90 kilos, like our earlier example, 200 times 15 gives you 3,000 calories to maintain weight. Is it perfect? No. Is it close enough to start? Absolutely. So step 2, create a smart calorie deficit. Now, to lose fat, we need to be in a deficit. Groundbreaking stuff, right? And if you hang around long enough, I'll reveal that water is in fact wet and the Pope is Catholic. Is water wet though? I'll leave that for the comment section. Aim to eat about 20 to 25% below maintenance. So back to our 200 pound guy, if his maintenance is around 3,000 calories, a 20% deficit brings that down to around 2,400. A 25% deficit takes it to about 2,250. So pick a spot based on how aggressive you want to be out the gates, and that will be enough to see around a 0.8 to 1% of your body weight drop per week without crashing your energy, your mood, or libido into the ground from day one. Step 3, protein, your fat loss secret weapon. Set your protein intake at 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. Why? Because when you're in a deficit, high protein helps to maintain muscle mass, it keeps you full, and it burns more calories just to digest it. Yes, you literally burn calories digesting protein. So for our 200 pound guy, that's around 240 grams of protein per day. It sounds a lot, right? Well, first I would say don't knock it until you tried it for the aforementioned reasons. But secondly, I would say if you really don't get on with it because of digestive, logistical, or even just enjoyment issues, just pull it down a touch. Just avoid going below 1 gram per pound of body weight. Step 4, carbs and fats, aka the rest of your calories after protein. Once protein is locked in, split the remaining calories between carbohydrates and fats. On training days, keep carbs higher to fuel your sessions and just station them around your workouts for the most part. On rest days, lower the carbs a little, bump the fats up slightly, and you might feel a bit more satiated, a bit more satisfied. You don't need to be a food scientist. Step 5, simple meal templates for busy lives. If you're spinning plates with work, kids, and everything else, stick to some go-to meal templates. Think protein, veg, carbs, and a healthy fat source. Chicken, rice, broccoli, and avocado. Greek yogurt, berries, whey isolate, steak, sweet potato, and spinach. Egg whites, turkey bacon, tomatoes, sourdough. Lean mince of choice, chopped tomatoes, veg, and pasta. Build meals around whole foods 80% of the time, and just don't get too clever with it. I personally used to hate batch cooking and reheating meat in particular. So I found ways to avoid that rubbery, reheated meat taste by opting for minced versions of meat, making saucy dishes like bolognese and homemade curry, or just buying cooked meat at the shops. And on that point, if you just don't have time to prep, then don't worry. Supermarkets nowadays are full of decent on-the-go options. Cooked deli meats, prepared salads with and without dressing, rice cakes for carbs if you have nowhere to heat things up, so it's easy. Step 6, handle social events without falling off. Here's the deal, you're gonna eat out. That doesn't mean you bin the plan. So here's how to handle it. Plan ahead, look up the menu. Pick a higher protein, lower fat option. A grilled meat, a salad, maybe skip the creamy sauce. Eat lighter earlier in the day if you know dinner's gonna be a bit of a blowout. And if you do go slightly over, cool. Just get back to plan the next day, that is it. Final tip for nutrition, the 80-20 rule. This whole thing works only if you make it sustainable. So aim for 80% whole, nutrient-dense food and leave 20% for the things you actually enjoy. Pizza, chocolate, pint with your mates, it's not off limits, just don't let them run the show. If you want the best way to guarantee results, then tracking is your friend. Plus, once you learn how to do it, you'll build a great awareness of what is actually in foods and how to reach your goals in future without tracking. In fact, I'm about to embark on a little 12-week cut myself before my firstborn arrives, and I plan to do it without tracking a single thing. But that's because I've been doing this for longer than Bitcoin. Never mind. My point is, by now I could eyeball a chicken breast and tell you its life story and its calorie count. So here's my strategy. I'll intermittent fast all morning, only taking on board coffee, water, and electrolytes. Depending on my training session, whether it's lifting or cardio based, for the former, I'll fuel up with a really high protein, probably low carb and moderate fat meal, eggs, vegetables, avocado, maybe a slice of sourdough. But if it's a cardio based workout, I'll remain fasted. No one wants to have a full belly with a heart rate of 175, trust me. After the session, high protein, moderate carb, low fat meal. So chicken breast, vegetables, potato or rice. And then dinner with the wife. Whatever she wants really, but mostly high protein, chicken, beef or salmon, some vegetables, and some carbs from rice or potato again. I'll often have a bowl of cereal before bed because the evening is when I crave food the most. So I place the majority of my food later on in the day. And I know that if I stick to this and keep my activity high enough, I'll lose weight. But honestly, I don't recommend it. It's not my first rodeo. On the topic of activity, all this knowledge you're soaking up is great, but putting it into action is that little bit harder. Life gets busy. So if you want help actually executing this thing with coaching, accountability, and a plan built around your life for you, that is what I do. Just hit the link below. No pressure, it's not for everyone. But if you're ready to stop trying and actually see this through before summer hits, this is your shot. So let's talk about training next, shall we? Step 3, a time-efficient training strategy that actually works. So you've sorted your timeline, you've locked in your nutrition. Now let's make sure the weight you're losing is actually fat and not your hard-earned muscle vanishing into the abyss. Providing you eat enough protein each day and resistance training around 4 times a week with good intensity, you're going to retain the majority of your muscle tissue, and that is the goal. But how do we train in a way that actually makes that happen? Let's break it down. First, training frequency and split. Honestly, there is no perfect split, frequency or volume for fat loss, but what matters is this: can you train consistently, recover properly, and progress week to week? I see great utility in a 4-day split for my clients. It's more than enough when done properly, but it still allows a bit of flexibility to move a session back or bring it forward. You could do an upper lower rest on 2 rotations or an upper lower rest push posterior, for example. But it's not the only way. When choosing your split, consider this: how many days per week can you realistically train? How long can you spend in the gym? And what equipment do you actually have access to? And maybe most importantly, what do you enjoy? Because if you don't enjoy the process, you won't stick to it. It's that simple. Now, let's talk about how you train. We must prioritize maximizing mechanical tension. This is arguably the only significant driver of hypertrophy. That means every session, you're aiming to lift as much weight as you can with proper form and with a close proximity to failure. Ideally 1 or 2 reps left in the tank on each working set. Movement selection: don't just do the basics. You'll often hear people say, just stick to the basics, bro. There's nothing basic about a perfectly executed squat or a barbell row that actually targets what you're intending to train. Those movements, they demand skill, stability, joint control, and usually years of practice to get right. So instead of blindly chasing big compound lifts, I want you to think about movements that fit your current strength and experience level, suit your structure and biomechanics, and allow you to train hard, safely, and consistently over time. That might well be a barbell back squat, or it might be a hack squat, a leg press, or a Bulgarian split squat. And a bent over row might work great for some guys, but others, it's going to wreck their back in 10 minutes flat. The best exercises are the ones that let you apply intensity with control through a full range of motion without needing a physio on standby. So how to tell if a movement is working or not? Does it feel good and pain-free? Is the target muscle getting a pump, or maybe soreness after the session? Can you go through a large range of motion, and can you progress the movement week to week? If yes, you're all good. And if you're training from home or with limited kit, that's fine too. You can still make serious progress. It just means choosing the right tools for the job that you need to do, and then progressive overload. Don't fall into the trap of chasing novelty. You don't need a new workout every week, I promise you. What you need is progress. Progress can look like more weight on the bar, more reps with the same weight, better execution, or maybe over time, adding some working sets. That's how we know you're moving forward, not just by sweating. But what about cardio on that topic? Yes, but strategic, not excessive. Start by aiming for 8,000 to 10,000 steps per day as a baseline, and from there you can layer in cardio that complements your training, not cardio that ruins it. But just like training, it's really important you select cardio you can actually look forward to or even enjoy. Some people are fine slogging away on the Stairmaster for 30 minutes watching Netflix. I prefer to hit some time or distance goal-based sprints or intervals on the bike or the rower. It doesn't really matter too much, just aim for a consistent calorie burn 3 to 4 times per week. And yet, if you play regular sport or indulge in some jiu-jitsu or boxing, that certainly accounts as cardio. Now, the grand finale, 3 secret accelerators that actually make a difference. Now look, I'm not about to tell you the secret to fat loss is some overpriced olive oil harvested under a full moon by Brian Johnson's biohacked butler, that was a mouthful, or a primal liver capsule that won't save Liver King's liver from the cocktail of steroids he was using. Liver. If something didn't work, I wouldn't waste your time talking about it. But what I'm about to share, every single one of my best clients does these things, and they get the best results, period. These are the 3 secret accelerators that take a decent fat loss phase and turn it into a great one. They make the process smoother, more consistent, and way more predictable, especially when life starts throwing curveballs, and that will happen. So let's get into it. Accelerator 1, sleep and stress. The invisible forces behind fat loss. Let's start with the least sexy but the most powerful thing you're probably still underestimating: sleep. There's a study I love. Participants were put into a calorie deficit and split into 2 groups. One slept 8.5 hours per week, and the other half, they slept just 5.5. They lost the same amount of weight on the scales, but the group who slept less, they lost more than half of their weight from muscle, not fat. That is brutal. So if you're cutting calories but not getting decent sleep, you're just slowly shrinking into a smaller and sadder version of yourself. So here's how to fix it. Get 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep. Keep your room cool, dark and quiet, and cut your screens 60 to 120 minutes before bed. And if your brain's bouncing like a tab on incognito, journal, breathe, audiobook, whatever works to relax you. Now let's talk stress. High stress doesn't just feel bad, it literally changes how your body stores and burns fat. This study from 2015 that showed women under psychological stress burned fewer calories, had lower fat oxidation, and released more insulin after eating. All of this stuff increases the likelihood of fat storage. And that was just after one stressful event. Imagine what chronic stress is doing across a full 12-week cut. So yeah, this matters a lot. I'm not saying you need to move to a mountain and meditate with the goats, but you do need to manage your stress like an adult. This might look like daily walks, breath work, or guided breathing, setting real boundaries of your time, and actually taking your rest days. This isn't fluff, it's strategy. And the people who take it seriously, they make faster progress and they feel way better doing it. Accelerator 2, strategic supplementation. What actually works? Look, most fat burners are trash. Most. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But there are some supplements that actually move the needle. So here's what I recommend. Whey isolate to hit your daily targets without stress. It makes things easier. Creatine monohydrate, 10 to 15 grams daily, helps maintain strength during a cut and has a host of other cognitive and health benefits. Vitamin D3, especially if you live somewhere where the sun's a rumor, and omega-3 for joint health, inflammation, heart function. Finally, a good sleep stack to help you unwind if your brain's like a browser with 50 tabs open. And yes, there is one fat burner that actually works: Yohimbine. Backed by research, Yohimbine can help with stubborn fat loss, especially in already lean individuals. But, and this is really important, it only works when you're in a calorie deficit, and it should be taken in a fasted state, ideally before cardio. This will accentuate the effects. But start low, monitor your tolerance. This one is not for the faint-hearted or the caffeine abusers. Accelerator 3, a weekly check-in, tracking and accountability. Here's the part that really sets the winners from the losers. They review their week, every week, not in a neurotic, track every grain of rice type of way, just a simple check-in. What was my average weight? Did I hit my steps and my training sessions? How was my sleep? How was my stress? And most importantly, how did I feel? That's your weekly reset, your weekly check-in. 10 minutes, total game changer. Pair that with some form of accountability, whether that's a coach, a mate, or even just journaling, and you're far less likely to drift, stall, or fall off. Because at the end of the day, motivation fades, but structure, discipline, that's what keeps you moving forward. So if you're serious about fat loss, don't skip these extras. Prioritize your recovery, use the right supplements, track what matters, and stay accountable. It's not fancy, it's just what works. So there you have it, everything you need to get lean for summer. A roadmap to being beach body ready, thanks to that protein world. A nutritional setup that helps you lose fat without losing your mind. And a training plan that does what you need it to. No more, no less. Finally, a few top tips to fast forward your progress. But if you're tight on time and you're wondering how the hell you're going to make all of this work alongside your other commitments, go and watch this video to see exactly how I managed to get in ridiculous shape whilst working a busy 9 to 5.